1. 911, where's your emergency? There's a Bigfoot looking in my window. Ma'am, are you at 110 County Road 12? The dispatcher could hear someone talking and then laughing from the appendage of a room adjoining the E911 center, a coincidence unrelated to the present call. Otherwise, silence bathed the room, the screaming, tragic existence from the outside world muted and muffled by protocol, lead-lined ceilings, and sound-absorbent wallpaper. He's walking off across the pasture, the panicked caller said in a hushed, anxious whisper. Teresa hesitated before responding, which indicated the 911 operator sensed no emergency existed. When she finally spoke again, her words were even slower and more clipped than usual, and that in itself was remarkable. Is 110 County Road 12 your address? I think it is. Lordy, I'm shaking. I'll have an officer come out and talk with you, okay? Do you want to speak to an officer? Mrs. Bennet? The line was silent. Ma'am? I hear footsteps on the porch, Mrs. Bennet whispered. The dispatcher pushed the transmit button on the radio, but still held the phone to her ear. No acceleration of pulse, but the instincts, sharpened by thousands of call, hinted at some dark undertone and finally concerned her. Control 1, 431. Someday maybe she would have one of those nice headsets people always see when they watch television shows depicting operators taking emergency calls. But for now, Teresa would have to cradle the phone between her ear and shoulder. 1043 possible, 1049 at 110 County Road 12. Teresa thought about the sergeant taking the call and reconsidered her dispatch. Investigate a possible prowler at the residence. I'll get directions to the house while you're en route. Switch to private. Teresa keyed a different channel and covered the mouthpiece of the phone. Caller says she saw a Bigfoot looking in the window, and now she says she hears footsteps. Someone's knocking around my door, Mrs. Bennet said in a whisper once more. Stay on the phone with me, okay? The line was quiet. Ma'am? The red line on the 911 screen shrank and vanished. Dead. Martin Johnson could hear the roar of the falls as he walked across the pine wood bridge at the top of the trail. Water crashed in a spray of white foam as fine white mist floated in the still air like sheer voile, the shroud of water droplets enfolding him on this warm, early summer evening. Off the end of the bridge, the trail splayed into a wider area where cement picnic tables once squatted in front of a small, still pool of slower water. Mrs. Jenny Johnson, a squatty woman wearing a wrinkled pink Fight Cancer t-shirt, followed out of breath behind Martin, and when they arrived at their destination, their 12-year-old son, Jace, already sat squatting at the edge of the water poking a small stick around in the muck. The boy's knees cradled his face, his gaze intent on the bottom of the clear pool. The man's 10-year-old daughter, Lacey, spun in sweeping, lazy circles behind the boy and looked high into the trees as she sang to herself, blonde hair spinning out behind her like a carnival ride. The girl's hands, attempting centrifugal and effervescent escape, swept radar-like at the end of twiggish arms in what might have looked artistic to someone inclined to see things that way. Can we sit? Jenny asked. She was still out of breath. That's quite a climb. How about on that rock and look out over the falls? Martin saw his wife's expression of doubt. I used to stand there with my dad every time we came up here. He omitted the part about his friend Tony jumping off the rock into the deep water between the first drop-off and the big falls. Martin and Jenny scaled the boulder that hung over the river and the falls as their children played at the edge of the calm water of the collecting pool less than 50 feet away. A warm wind rustled the leaves in the trees as the hypnotic noise of the water drowned out easy conversation. This is probably my favorite place in the world, Martin said. It's beautiful, The woman sat far back from the edge where her husband stood. My dad used to be off work on Wednesdays, and he would bring me and my friends up here. Martin thought about Tony again and wondered what he might be doing nowadays. The man turned and sat beside his wife. "It's cool up here," Jenny said. Martin draped his arm around his wife, and she hugged her own arms around her middle, just below her ample bosom, inside her pink shirt, adorned by the picture of a golden bow. "We should have brought a picnic." The woman nodded and looked over to her children, who were now racing around, chasing each other in the familiar way of children's evasion, full of sharp turns, twists, and darting movement. She wanted to tell them not to get too close to the water as she thought of the power of the waterfall, and in the same instant thought about them muddying their shoes. As if reading her mind, they walked toward the water, through the mud, and began studying the water where the boy had been looking before. Jace pointed at something in the clear, shallow pool. "I think the kids like it here," Jenny said. She smiled to her husband. It wasn't fair to let her fear ruin his outing. "Mom!" The scream was loud, even over the crashing water. Martin was on his feet in a split second, going to the kids. Something in the scream spoke of danger. Both of the children looked upstream, around the bend. The water was shallow and rocky in that direction, but wide and deeper than usual due to the recent rain. Lacey was reeling away from the scene as her brother shot a backward glance toward looking for his parents, then back to the river and up the stream. "Dad, look!" To Martin, it looked like a large man was crossing near a bend which was shrouded in tree branches. Only this man was moving fast, stepping in the water and then onto stones. The arms of the beast in question hung out to its sides as the creature steadied itself with agility, as though going somewhere with purpose and in measured haste. By then, Martin realized it wasn't a man crossing the river. The figure was big, brown, and hairy, and it disappeared into the brush on the other side and around the gentle curve of the flowing water. "What was that?" Jenny asked, behind them now. She put her hands on the children's shoulders. "Was it a bear?" "I think we just saw a Bigfoot," the man said. A long, mournful cry echoed over the noise of the crashing water. For only a moment the Martins stood without saying a word before striding in the direction of the trail and the bottom of the falls. Now the picnic area and the wading pool and the rock overlooking the falls didn't seem so safe. Not even to Martin.